Hey, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's Positive Filter back with another episode of Positive Filter. The host, it's your boy, Phil, aka the Prince of Positivity, aka everyone's favorite Alpha, aka I got Austin tattooed on my leg, aka I keep on doing AKAs. And I'm joined today by a new special guest. And I told you everyone is a special guest to me because they take their time to be on my show. I am joined by Alex Iceman. Yes, that's his last name. It sounds like a character out of Top Gun. But Alex, for the listeners, go ahead and give them a little introduction who you are.
Absolutely. So I'm an entrepreneur first of all, and a professional athlete. So I've been a software engineer for quite a while. I've been a professional athlete. I am a professional athlete for working as a hockey official for the American Hockey League. But mostly importantly, I enjoy building businesses that help people. And that's the whole story of my company, Genium, and not mine, but actually our company, that all the employees have their own stake in the company. And great. So I've been doing that for quite many years. I've transitioned over to a businessman from a software engineering career, and that was a tough transition for me. I've learned a lot of interesting stuff, and I'm still learning a lot of it as we go. I grew up in Russia up until 24. I worked as a professional hockey referee back there, and that was my full-time job. I've got my second degree in computer mathematics and cybersecurity and software engineering back at Moscow State University, and got an opportunity to move here to San Francisco and pursue a career as a software engineer. Fast forwarding, I moved here, started working for a company. They fired me at a certain time because the company was shrinking down. They've lost a couple of large contracts, and I knew it was coming, but it still was a surprise. So I was out on the street. I didn't know what to do, and that's when I figured, look, I have to do something drastically different. And I started my own company, and we've been growing since then. Everything was great and is great. And I got picked up by the American Hockey League here when the expansion of the franchise came to California.
Yeah.
And signing a contract with them and working here in California as a linesman, and super happy with it. So that's just a short introduction for people to know what I'm doing. But 80% of my time is business, and probably 70% time business. 25 is hockey, and then the rest 5 is split across other hobbies.
I love it. And is your name like in Russian? Is it Iceman, or do you change that American name?
I did change that, and that came naturally. Good story. The original last name is Ledovsky, and led means ice, and ski belongs to ice. So it loosely translates as Iceman, and I didn't know Top Gun back in the days when I picked it up, and I started getting references, and I started Googling, and I figured, hit right on the spot. And then I watched the movie, and I actually really liked the personality of the Iceman. So it was like, all right, that kind of fits, resembles it a little bit. But the story is that I still call, in hockey world, I am known as Ledovsky. But in the business world, I'm known as Iceman because my first company was Iceman Softworks, and it was a small consultancy agency. And I named it because I took that nickname. And since in the American, nobody could remember my last name properly, how to pronounce it, they would stagger. They would say Alex, and they would pause because I see they cannot remember my last name. And they start calling me Alex from Iceman because Iceman Softworks, and they kind of assumed I probably, my last name is Iceman. And then it kind of stuck to me because they start just skipping from and start telling Alex Iceman, and then this is Iceman. They just actually started calling me Iceman.
And that's dope. That's dope. I
figured, look, I'll just roll with it. I'll take it and embrace it. And here I am.
And it kind of goes along with your hobbies, your interests. I love it. And I don't think but I'm in a fraternity called Alpha Phi Alpha, and we like to say that we're the coldest. Like our motto and our thing, we hold on to ice and all that. So I think it's destiny, man. I got the Iceman on my podcast. You know what I'm saying?
There you go. Here you go.
So one of the things before we even got on the show to talk, I got a little bit of gauge, and I was just so enthralled. Like you got hands in so many different pockets, and that's what I'm actually going to call the episode. Call it the modern day Renaissance man. So you got different identities, not identities, but different hobbies like hockey, but also technical software. Where did that kind of develop for you as a kid, or take us back to where you think, oh, I like mathematics, but I love playing hockey. Start thinking about those different interests. Bring us back to those early days.
That's a great question. So, I always was good at is good at mathematics, and I showed very promising results back in high school. However, we had a selection whether to go and be in a math specific class or chemistry specific class, and everybody went to the math class, and I didn't get a spot. So it was 32 people in that class already filled out and topped off. So they said, "Look, you're still very good, and why don't you go and do chemistry, because you had to choose one or the other, or stay just regular." So I picked chemistry, and my first major was biochemistry, just because I started doing chemistry. So I finished the school, 4 years of chemistry in school, and then 4 or 5 more years, all different sorts of biochemistry and organic, non-organic chemistry in college for the first degree. I didn't quite like it, but I had to learn it, which gave me great opportunities. So that's been my passion. I was competing as a math student with other top graded students all the time, so it was great. But it didn't go anywhere at that time. I'm not sure why. Just probably it all turned out this way. Hockey came along when I was 11 years old. I started very late compared to other kids. I played for 4 years in a small local club, and wasn't great at it. But I at that time I was a very good skater. I knew the game, and I wanted to stay in the game. And somebody suggested me to stay as an official. Say, hey, why don't you try and stay on the ice, because you have to graduate, and if you're not making anywhere, you're just done with hockey. So I figured, well, I'll try. And I had all the body composition for a good hockey referee, and I set my very high goals to progress one league a year. So I would work a league for a year, and then I would seek to work at higher levels. At some point, I just circling back, I did 265 games one season, and the season from September to April. So I was almost working a few 2-3 games a day.
Wow.
And I've been all over the place. So I would say yes to everything. And people knew me that I was very reliable. I'll be on time, and I would, this is the go-to guy. So that really helped me to elevate my career, just, saying yes and being positive. Again, like, not like taking everything, even the toughest and darkest games somewhere on the outskirts. I would take it. I would go. I would do it. It's not convenient. I'm not going to make money, but I'd still go out there because I enjoy doing that.
So what about so let's fast forward. Like, obviously you got advanced degrees, you're getting degrees in mathematics. Tell us the day, like, I guess your equivalent of, your University of Moscow, right? Is that correct?
It's MIT of United States.
Yes. So how did you balance pursuing, a very concrete degree and your passion for hockey at the same time?
It was easy because at the time when I got into that second university and I was second degree, it was very cautious and conscious decision. I've calculated everything properly because I was still working full time as a referee, and I needed to work around the schedule. So as an athlete, you get used to hard work. You do hard work on a daily basis. That's your routine, and that's just the mentality and the framework of my life. Hard work. If things go south, just go back to your basics and work hard. That's my mentality, and I applied the same principles to education. So I created a plan. I knew that I have to consistently work on specific things daily, and I did this, and little by little, day by day, and as my COO says, one punch at a time. I've built that up. I just, I wasn't looking at the whole picture at that, like, especially in the beginning, just every day, daily grind. I've got homework. You have to do it. Sometimes I wouldn't sleep the whole night. So I would, pull an all-nighter because I was not the smartest guy, honestly, but I was a very hardworking guy. And if I don't understand something, I would just sit down and try to do my best. And I had to balance that, obviously, with being an athlete. Sometimes it was tough, but tough is good. That's how we grow. That's how you go out of the comfort zone and then get good results.
So take us to your journey. So, like, we're going to be all over the place, but take us. You spoke that you came all the way to the United States, right? So when was that transition? When you transitioned from Russia to the United States?
Right. So it was 2011, 2010, 2011. It was a tough decision for me because I was getting invited to work the highest level of hockey in Russia,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
I've at the same time I've got a job offer here in San Francisco that was very appealing, and I didn't know what to do. I had to literally call my mentors, and I believe four different people, and I've talked to them about this, and they all suggested that look, this opportunities like that don't present itself themselves every day, so you'd better take it, and you can always come back in a year and resume what you've been doing and come back to hockey. I don't think it'd be a problem. And I took the chance. I moved over here, and actually quite happy. It took me about 3 years to get back on my feet and feel very comfortable at what I'm doing, and business wise and software wise and hockey wise, and but it all happened. And when I've got invited to work in the American Hockey League, I kind of came back to the same professional level that I was back in Russia. So it only took me 3.5 years to get back to the same level of hockey and just live in general, moving over here.
So when you moved over here, obviously career was top one, and then you put hockey on the side. So like when you first touched down in America, you weren't doing hockey so much. Like you
No,
and like
I made a conscious decision to quit hockey at that time. So it
okay,
was very tough for me. I had to stop, and
yeah,
it was right in the middle of the season. I was in a very
yeah,
good shape. However, I couldn't stop, so
yeah,
I've applied to a
yeah,
organization, and the hockey officials here in San Francisco, and I started doing kids games. So I
yeah. I
literally
got it. That's what I said. Yeah,
and nobody knew me at the time, and I have no idea, like I didn't know anybody, so I literally started from the ground up. And it was interesting because I've got a very great feedback off of one adult men's league games. It was a glorifying feedback. I still have it somewhere in my email, where people said that in the last 20 years of playing hockey, we've never seen a better official working on the ice with us. And I do remember that, because I was in a very good shape, and I working very very hard for a regular beer league adult game, and they were super happy because I was great and great communication, everything. And they wrote that clarifying feedback out of nowhere, and I've got promoted to 3 or 4 ranks up, right at the same, like, next day. I've got, like, you've got your level up to a certain thing, and I started picking up better and better games, and then eventually went out to try out for the American Hockey League down in Los Angeles.
now with that being said, like obviously it could have been a little humbling. You're at the top echelon of your hockey career in Russia, and now you're teaching kids games. How did you drive through that passion? And maybe for those kids, that's their first exposure to hockey, so they've fallen all over the place and not skating as well. And you're like, man, I've
Right.
seen I've seen the best hockey players. Now I'm helping these kids. But how'd you, one, humble yourself, or two, like say like maybe a bigger purpose, like I still enjoy it, I'm helping people. And how did you like kind of reframe it
Right.
to say this is fun? You know what I'm saying?
Look, when you love something, you just keep doing it. And of course, it was devastating for me to make that decision. I know it was hard, but I was glad to step back on the ice and start doing any games. When you work with kids, it's different.
Mhm.
Excuse me. You have to be an educator more than
Yes.
official. So
Yeah.
you educate them, you talk to them, you make sure they have fun as well, and it's
Mhm.
fair and safe for the parents, for the kids. And it's a different kind of mentality. So you're not
Yeah.
as tough
Yeah.
as you
Yeah.
are usually with adults. So sometimes, once in a while, it's great to be on the ice and give back, and giving back is very important to me. In the business world as well, I love helping people, and that's how I started helping people to build software and mobile apps. And I genuinely want to help companies, and that's um, it actually played a bad joke on me at some point in time, when I wasn't too due diligent about
Mm.
picking a client that didn't perform well. But now I've learned a little bit more, so I do interviews with my clients and make
Yeah.
sure that we
You
both
bet them.
it's a both synergy, and they want me to help as much as I want to help them. And it kind of goes through the whole career, both hockey and business.
I love it, and I love your comeback story. One of the things you said is that before we talked, that you were doing well, you got this job, and then unfortunately you were let go. And in that decision, you could have just as easily maybe gone back to Russia, or kind of packed it up. And what made you want to stay and like push through that and develop a life in America after that adversity?
Ah, honestly, that's a great question. I don't like particularly. I don't really know the exact reason. I just know that I'm as an athlete, you are a competitive person per se. You compete with yourself first of all.
Mhm,
So giving up at that point would have been losing a game or
mhm,
losing something. And I'm not that kind of person. I would go all in and up until the very end, and I will fight until the end. So immediately started figuring things out, and of course I wasn't the first person to be let go, and the guy
mhm,
before who was let go before me about 2 months ago, I've talked to him and I kept in touch with him, and he was an American, and he said, look, I'm working from home. It's like, how is that possible? And he said,
mhm,
look, I started consulting, and I had no idea what consulting was. I honestly, I had no idea. And I said, look, can we get a coffee or something, and you can just talk me through what you do?
mhm,
And we got together, and Kevin, his name, he literally sit down. He was Ruby on Rails engineer, amazing guy, and full stack, amazing guy, just great personality. um, and he taught me everything he was doing, and he shared his resume, and basically he would go on Craigslist and start sending out his resume and saying, look, I'm ready to help. Here's my rate, and I work from home. I'm here, here's my portfolio. And he said, you just do this quite many times and get through specific calls, interviews, and maybe you get hired and you can work remotely. And that was important for me because I had to go back to Russia at that time, and I've got it all planned out for a month and a half to finish up my degree and get the actual
mhm,
diploma. I needed to sign a few things and get the actual paper. So because it was still sitting there, and I went back. I didn't have time to sign and process the whole thing. So I had to be there in person. I've arranged that. And I've agreed with my boss that I'm going to work remotely. And then I got laid off, so I needed to, I have
mhm.
payroll. I mean, bills to pay. I don't have
Yes.
money, so I had to figure something out. And he helped me tremendously. I started sending out resumes, and I started
Mhm,
sending out through Craigslist, just going one by one everywhere
mhm,
throughout the United States. And funny enough, 2 weeks after hard work and every day sending probably 15 to 20 emails a day, after 2 weeks, I've sent out probably 150 emails. I've got 3 phone calls, and I've got one contract that played out very well. It was my first thing. I was super happy. I worked my ass off. I
mhm.
went all in, and I did amazing job, and they came back for more, and they came back for more, and they started asking me for more people, and that's how I grew the company.
And I love that. I love that fire. I love that self competition. I'm kind of my biggest competitor too. Sometimes I tell people I have this invisible opponent, and I tell this opponent that they're not going to beat me. And I talk to myself. People probably think I'm crazy, but I'm very competitive about that too. But at the same time, when I do this internal competition, it gives me drive, but also sometimes it can tip over and also be damaging to my self esteem. Like like things don't go out the way you want, even when you have that drive. Was there a point where you're like really at the lowest, like, yo, I'm about to really just quit? And what was that spark? Like for me, I'll be honest, like sometimes where I felt like I wasn't doing really well, I look at my kids and they're like, yo, I can do it. I look at my kids and my wife, and they give me a jolt or a little bit. Um, Even at that time where I feel like I'm not doing well, what was your jolt?
Such a great question. I face that every day. I'm not a quitter, so I probably wouldn't
Mhm,
quit. The key to that is just loving what you do, enjoying it, and no matter what the result is, next day you're gonna wake up and do the same thing. And I think it really comes from hockey for me.
mhm,
The, not every game is a perfect game. In fact, every game has some sort of mistakes, whether major or minor.
mhm,
Um, and I have a specific mantra that I tell to myself. I trust my judgment. I usually
mhm,
tell it to myself. I'm a professional. Sometimes things don't go as planned, but it's okay. It's a human factor. As long as I'm true to myself that I worked really hard, and I'm learning from my mistakes. I do retrospective of what I've done, and we say that what separates great official from good official and great businessman from a good businessman is we all do mistakes, but great
Hmm.
ones do them once and learn and never do them again. So
Yeah.
that's kind of my mantra. So when I'm at the lowest, I go back to basics. So
Okay.
I reset. I reset. I say specific things like I trust my judgment. I learned what I could have been done better in a
Hmm.
specific spot, and I
Hmm.
just go even harder. So I go all in, and I go all in. I just say, hey, remember who you are. You're competitive. You're a winner. You should just work your butt off and
Yeah.
get back to basics. And every single day, if it's sales, if something is not going right, you just go back to basics. You just do start reaching out to people and asking, hey, do you know anybody who can help, I mean,
Hmm.
or who's interested in a great engineers or great mobile development or anything. And you just do that like consistently every single day from 9 a.m. to 6 a.m. or 5 in my case, because I go to the gym and work out.
Yeah.
And then you just go back to basics. Sleep well, work hard, exercise, maintain your body, and that's it.
Just a cycle. You got to have it.
Just a
But
cycle.
but also I see that you try new things. You told me earlier you're investing in uh, flying airplane, and you're trying to learn new instruments. Why do you keep on continuously seeking new things outside of the different things? So you got hockey on lock, you got your business on lock. Why do you continue to learn new things, and why?
Well,
For what?
I guess the biggest advantage that my parents gave me is a continuous education. So
Hmm.
they taught me how to educate yourself, and that kind of became my hobby. So I like learning new things. I like
Hmm.
challenging my brain, and I
Hmm.
believe that when you come across cross discipline knowledge like flying airplanes,
Hmm.
hockey, business, that gives you a competitive advantage because you see things in a different perspective.
Hmm.
In fact, when I started flying airplanes, I started implementing different policies in our company for security. They're all based off of checklists. So airplanes
Hmm.
and security
Yeah.
are all about checklists.
Yep.
And I figured, all right, this industry have figured that out, how to provide quality and safety, and that's what we do. We're very high on quality at Genium and very high on safety. So I figured, all right, those two very go like really go together. We've implemented few checklists from aviation. We literally took
Hmm.
checklists from aviation and brought them into the business and do certain processes through checklists, which is great. So I'm constantly challenging my brain to see things in a different perspective, and I always wanted to learn how to fly. And I took a chance and started, found a great sorry, a greater flight instructor in a
Hmm.
flight school, and here I am.
What about the instrument? Why are you trying?
I well,
Why?
so the instruments has been my passion since I was a child. I started playing piano when I was 5,
Mm-hmm.
and my parents took me out to a musical school, and I've got a formal degree in music as playing piano. It didn't really go anywhere outside of that music, and I think I
Mm-hmm.
graduated when I was 13 or 12, somewhere around that
Mm-hmm.
age, and I just played recreationally for
Mm-hmm.
um, sometime because hockey took over and university took over. So I would play piano here and there. But the music stayed with me throughout my life. And as I grew older, I guess I wanted to do more and more because I needed an outlet to vent
Mm-hmm.
or calm myself down. So I would play music. And then I started to compose music as well. And right now I am learning how to compose um, for movies and do orchestrations. And I
Mm-hmm.
started learning different instruments, and I wanted to see if I can learn to play them at a decent level. And I
Mm-hmm.
started picking up few interesting instruments. So saxophone was the first one. I've got violin and I've got clarinet right now, and some other couple of interesting
Jeez.
instruments. And they all similar. Look, when you go
Yeah,
back
yeah, I
to
was about to say, yeah, yeah, I was about to say, dang, man. Yeah,
music
but
theory is the same, and when you break it down to basic blocks, it's the same as hockey or anything. You learn the basics and then you repetitively exercise, and the same with music. Is just, for
yeah.
me, I literally spend about 5% of my time on it, so it's not a huge
Mm-hmm.
time effort, but as long as I do it consistently and I try to play a music instrument once a day. I have a clarinet in my car, so every time I have a break, I would go out and play clarinet. Right now,
Yeah,
that's how I'm finding. I'm a student of my calendar, so whenever I have a,
yeah.
and it's not hard. Some people watch YouTube videos when they on a break. I do that too, but I also would go and play piano or clarinet or saxophone
So
for.
you just try little things, everything. How do you, I guess you just kind of explained it. You put times to little things, so just gradually getting better. You don't have no accelerated plan to learn how to be a musician, but if you figure that you do a little bit each day, you'll get better at that. Or you do a little bit of learn how to fly, you'll learn how to fly a plane, and then you put more of your time and a larger amount of your time into the things that you really need to be invested in, such as hockey and your business, right?
Yes,
So how do
business is
you?
number one for.
Yeah. So yeah. So how do you prioritize as the Renaissance man that you are? How do you prioritize like making sure that like everything gets the love that it needs to grow?
It comes from certain goals. So we have ambitious goals, and I have responsibilities. So we have over 85 people working at Genium, and we're growing. So I have
Mhm.
tremendous responsibility for all the people and the families, and business is number one priority for us. So I spend most of my time on working on a company at a company, and making sure we grow at a very good pace, and stay international and float. We're launching our own products, experimenting and doing a lot of different things. And first of all, taking care of our clients, and they're super happy. Um, so that's number one priority. The second priority is hockey, because hockey is a job, and I am hired. I have a contract. I do about 5 games a month, and that's plenty of games. It's once a week or two times a week, and I work out every day. Um, helps me to stay in shape, but also once you get to a specific level, you know all the rules, you know a lot about
Mhm.
hockey. You need to make sure you're mentally ready, and I have
Mhm.
specific routines for that. So you optimize, you study your calendar, and you do certain things um, in order. And look, I've been doing that for hockey for 17 years, and I've been doing business for almost 9 years. And
Mhm.
you learn how those two can coexist, and you build certain schedules around it. So I like today we're doing this. I work up until 4:30, and then I have a workout at 5 up until 6:30, and it's in my calendar, and I know I have to be there. And it just works out around this. This is self discipline. So
Yeah, seems very disciplined. Where do you? I guess you kind of self-impose this discipline, right? Who doesn't? You have any external people that check you a little bit, keep you in line, or what?
I check myself more
Yeah,
than external people. I check
yeah,
more other people, which I should
yeah.
probably shouldn't. I'm very hard on myself, and I'm getting better at it, because I am the biggest my own ally. So I have to help myself overcome, and not to be too hard on myself. And
Mhm.
over time, when you reach specific goals, and you perform well, and you have good hockey games, because you know you've done your best,
Mhm.
and you didn't do a lot of mistakes, you were in a great shape, and teams are happy, and everything is great, you know that you worked hard towards this, and it's not a random surprise, because you know that
Mhm.
this is expected. Same with business, right?
Mhm.
Consistency. You have processes. You have to do what you have to do. You do it consistently. You deliver high quality. Clients are happy. I get happy emails, happy phone calls, and this is
Mhm.
great. This is great for me, and that's how I get checked. I get feedback, but I'm hard on pretty hard on myself, tough, really.
So what are you doing to work on that then? To give yourself more grace.
Well, first of all, I kind of say, look, if you don't, you're your own ally, so you have to help yourself to not to be too stressed. And aviation and hockey taught me that stress is not a good thing.
Mhm.
When you get stressed, your vision narrows. You cannot see anything outside of your box, and your
Mhm.
body does not react properly to challenges. So you have to calm yourself down,
Yeah.
both at a hockey game, at a business, on the airplane. If something goes south, first you have to calm yourself down and just work
Yeah.
the problem.
Yeah.
And calming yourself down is important thing for me, because I'm very emotional, and I've been learning to um, lower my RPMs a little bit
Like
when.
breathe. Like I noticed that too. Like I learned about mindfulness, right? Like how like, you know, in the most pressure situations, people center themselves and you're right, like they get that vision. And you're like, how do they do it? But they're like controlling their breath and lowering and focusing, right? Is that kind of what you're thinking about? Or
That, and I don't have specific things that I do, but I say, look, like if it's a business, I know that I'm truly want to help people, and I'm very honest to myself. I say, look, I really want to help this company. I will go all in. I will deliver great results, and I truly believe in it, and I think that helps. So I'm not stressed, because I know I'm doing my best, and I've done it before, and I can do it again. And typically problems come from emotions when emotions get too high. So my goal is to lower it down and then make sure that we work on a specific problem and resolve it. Same with hockey. So just enjoying it. Literally, when I
Hmm.
smile on the ice, a lot of guys love to work with me because I have a positive attitude, and I keep it on the ice and off the ice and in the company, and that helps to kind of ease the tensions and just enjoying it. Because the second you
Hmm.
start to be stressed, people feel it around you, and you don't enjoy it. People don't enjoy it, and you've got one life. It's better to enjoy it. So just enjoy what you're doing.
So you're in San Fran, but you told me you do a lot of games in LA. So does that require travel? How do you get down there?
I do not do a lot of games down in Los Angeles. I do go there occasionally and once a year for a training camp. Uh,
Okay.
they typically fly over us over. Southwest from San Jose is not not too expensive. You can get a ticket for $100, and they just fly us over for a game day to
Okay,
go.
so you get that done. And with the flying, where's the farthest you've flown?
I don't fly like myself as a pilot to right now up to very far destinations.
Yeah.
The furthest I flew um, is San Francisco Bay Area Exploratory Tour, where you go
Hmm.
around San Francisco and you look
Hmm.
around Golden Gate Bridge and you go to Half Moon Bay, land. We
Hmm.
got a bite and then came back to the airplane and came back to Palo Alto. I fly out of Palo Alto.
And then for the music, right? Have you performed? I know probably when you were a kid did a recital and stuff, but do you have any uh, plans to like perform in a concert or like in front of an
Nah,
audience or anything like that?
Nah, look, I play music to my wife, to my parents, and friends and
Hmm.
family. I enjoy it. I don't have plans to go big. Again, I know the amount of time and commitment that I can get there, but
Yeah.
it's not what I want to do. I love doing it, not competitively, let's say recreationally. I like to do it
Yes.
because
Yes.
the second I jump into that for the sake of performing, I will become an athlete. I'll compete,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
and I don't want to do that.
So
I
you don't
want
want
to
to turn that part on your brain, right? You can't
no.
turn. That's the switch you have. I like that. I like that. Do you feel like you had that switch sometimes where you're like, okay,
You have to balance it because it's the switch is on all the time, so you have to
yeah,
forcibly turn it off for
okay,
certain
yeah, yeah.
specific things. But it is all on. It's on all the time.
I know, because I agree. Like I was a former athlete, and sometimes I feel like I have a switch where it's like I'm chilling, but then someone's like, "Yo, Phil, take this seriously," and I switch it on, and then I lock in, and I want to be good at something, but not very often. But when I lock in, and like I want to be
Nice.
successful. Yeah, so I don't know. I guess that's that same kind of competitor mindset, right?
It is.
You don't want to just be like. I sometimes I like to think of it like I don't want to just show up and just show up. Like I want to show up and win. Like, and that's a competitive. Like, uh, I get jokes with my colleagues. It's like even in our professional association, I love to like I love to go to like let's say associations and win awards like recognition, and I'm like we're coming here to win, and that's what my brain switches on. Kind of thing.
Right. I am competitive. I think, I love to win,
Mm-hmm.
but I more love to put myself in a leading group. So I have a
Yeah.
question I usually ask, and some people answer differently. So I usually ask people, do you prefer to be the leader in the trailing group or the last person in the leading group if you compare two groups? And I prefer to be the
Um.
last one in the leading group so I can catch up and work with top performers, and
Oh
I'm
yeah.
okay
Yeah.
to be somewhere in the middle of top performers versus being the first of the trailing group that.
I get what you're saying. Like if you were on a championship team, would you be okay not being a starter, but you on that team contribute to the team, or do you want to be like the all star on a team that's losing?
Exactly, or not losing, but maybe just
Yeah.
a tier
Yeah.
lower.
To a lower level. Yeah.
I would, and
Uh,
I would even prefer to sit on the bench at the higher team. So
Me
I
too.
get
Yeah.
waiting for that shot. But I'll make sure I'll be 100% ready when I get that shot, and I'll take it all in when the opportunity
Actually,
presents
I
itself.
actually love that. I love that mindset. Like surround yourself with the people that raise your game up. Like I'm a true believer in like you're the average of the five people that you're around. So like let's say you're five people around you are like you said that next level, then naturally you're just gonna gravitate to keep up. kind of thing.
I totally agree, and I would say even go even further. People don't realize there's been analysis that it's actually more than 5 people that influence you, and
Hmm.
a friend of a friend influence you up to 20%. So
Mm,
if a friend of a friend influences you 15 to 20%. So if you're looking at friends of a friends, they will influence you as well. So just
mm. Yeah,
choose
that's
it
powerful.
wisely.
That's very powerful. That's true. That's very powerful. I mean, that's true about who you're around, who you surround yourself, that organic relationships. You said you have mentors. You said you also had someone that you connect with to help you get back into the game with the business. So I totally agree with that. But then you added another layer where it's not just those people. It's like, who are they surrounding themselves with too, right? That second, that second degree of association is important too, right?
Very
Wow.
important.
Wow, I didn't think about that. I learned something new. Now I put 20%. I'm gonna use that too to think about to reevaluate who's in my circle, but then who's in their circle too, because that kind of makes
Exactly.
sense. That makes
Because they
sense.
influence them quite a lot, and then they influence you, and
Right.
they follow their trends, and which eventually you will follow
Yeah.
as well.
So it is very true. Like if you got a friend that's out there and maybe around you they're doing good, but you notice that their circle is pretty bad, you might need to take caution to that too. Like see who are they surrounding themselves with.
See if well, I like when I pick and choose people like that. So I look at whether they're somewhere in the middle of the leading group or they're the first one in the trailing group, and like in the travels, a star player in the travel team or the you know average in somewhere in championship team,
Mm,
because they can be loud and they can be number one around everything, but when if that's the most they've got and they don't have anybody above them that they try to be better at, then it's not going to happen. They're not going to grow. And when you select your mentors, see what they're like, who they're surrounding themselves with, and what
mm-hmm.
their mentors,
Yeah.
because you will become an average of their mentors as well at some point of time.
Mm, I love that. I never thought about that's like so yeah. So when you seek out mentorship, be mindful who are their mentors, who guided them, who helped them. Because that's kind of yeah, because they needed help too to get to where they are. So think about who's helping them as
And
well.
it also statistics, right? So it's up to 20%, 10 to 20%. You have the secondhand mentorship
Mhm.
off of over your friends or mentors. But also, if you go 2 legs down, it comes down to 3 to 5%. So it's just the number of people they have to be surrounded by grows pretty much exponentially in this sense. So you need to be cautious about that and mindful of how you
I don't
select
know.
choosing
Quick
people.
math. I ain't good at math, so I'm just gonna take your word for it. I'm just gonna be like, yeah, it makes sense. But it makes perfect sense, when you explain it in that way. So this is the part of the show I call shot for shot. I know I surprised you. So I get to ask you any random question related to this or not. You get to ask me any random question. I give the guest the opportunity to ask me a question. Do you want to go
Interesting.
first? Do you want to go first, or I'll go first?
You go first, and I'll take my time to kind of think of a very
Okay.
peculiar question.
So you're from Russia, and you told me you got business in Argentina, and you get to travel, maybe travel the world. What are some of your favorite countries to visit and see the different places of the world?
The answer is Japan. Japan
Okay.
blew my mind. It's a completely reverse country. They think differently. They think
Mhm,
from inside out.
mhm.
I always want to come back to Japan. I've been there 3 times for short
Okay.
business trips, but I always want to take my family and go over there and spend more time. I didn't have opportunity yet, but I'm hoping that this is going to happen sometime soon. Japan is the answer.
What places in Japan? Like what places in Japan did you go visit? And then you say particularly what part of the culture do you like the food or the
Yeah. So
or the Eastern mindset, the East what the East,
Mhm.
how to think about things.
Sure. Well, first of all, Tokyo. I've been to
Hmm.
Tokyo and I've been all around suburbs of Tokyo. I
Hmm.
didn't go too further out because it was very short business trips, four to
Hmm.
six days, and it's a 10-hour flight, about
Hmm.
9 hours flight from San Francisco. Um, the way they think blew my mind. They think differently, and I love to learn and interact with people that think differently because that
Hmm.
gives you a different perspective on things, on mentality, on performance, on all sorts of culture. I I feel they think from inside out. It's
Hmm.
hard, like we think
Yeah.
from outside in and
Hmm.
from inside out. Like it's a completely reverse like thinking process, which really helps me to design certain things. And now I see
Mm-hmm.
things differently. I know how they interact. So when I interact with Japanese, I know a little
Mm-hmm.
bit more about them, and it's easier for
Mm-hmm.
me to interact with them.
That
So
makes
just
sense.
way of thinking.
That makes sense. I definitely love. I rock with Japanese culture. I rock with their cuisine. Um, I definitely love watching anime. Their, and their design process is pretty unique too. You know, it's awesome. They just the way they design things.
Right.
So I love it. All right, you get to ask me a question.
So my question would be, who's name one person that changed your life drastically, like throughout your years.
Oh
Is there
wow.
one person that
Okay.
consciously or unconsciously changed the way you think or your life, and you're like, wow, now I'm a completely different person?
Well, I don't know. Maybe I give a shout out to my wife, but that's an easy one. So she already knows that. I can go in a whole detail about her, but I'm gonna do someone that's probably like more of a surprise. Is my 10th grade teacher, Mark Holbrook. In the 10th grade, he organized the class of all Black men, Black boys at that point, and he picked me randomly. Like he made the class like roster and then put us in this class, and it was through that class that just totally transformed my life, because in that class in the 10th grade is where I met all my best friends. I met the godfather of my children, all my support, people that have been supporting me, and also just having a community of Black men. And he knows I met him, and I mean, I met up with him, many, many years later, and he didn't really know the impact of that class on all of us. He thought it was just some class he wanted to motivate us together, but he didn't realize the impact of us all going to college. He didn't know that most of us went into education, naturally education, like teachers, and I'm at a college campus. He didn't know that we were all going to stay friends this long. He didn't know that we were going to have kids, and well, he knew we were going to have kids, but he didn't know that we were going to become each other's godparents and stuff like that. So I think for someone that unexpectedly changed a lot of lives would be Mark Holbrook.
Nice.
And he knows that, but it's crazy. And I give him a shout out. I see him all the time. But he literally was like, when he made that class, he was only like 27-year-old, some 27-year-old guy. We were all like 14-year-old, 15-year-old boys. And he didn't realize that this, just being a young adult, was going to have such an impact on us later on.
How important it is to have people like that in your life, right?
Yeah.
And it kind of brings the thought that it's important to give back.
Yeah.
When you think back to those people who impacted you, how important it is to give back. And I always give back when entrepreneurs reach out to me and they ask questions, and I'm super open to answer them, and I engage in conversations with them and make sure that, look, I'm gonna share the knowledge, because I know it's gonna take hard work, and I can
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I'm not afraid of competition, because I know I can outperform people.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
And I always say ideas worth nothing, execution matters. And I'm happy to share my path and my information with people, because if that can help, I live in a world more than enough of
Yeah.
everything. And if it can help somebody else to ease their stress, or make their life better, why not? I can give my information and my
Well,
knowledge.
the thing I learned from Holbrook was that, like I told you the whole story, he went on his career. He became, a principal. He was a teacher, became a principal, moved on up, right? But I don't think in the moment, sometimes people don't realize in the moment their impact and how powerful it was. He was just teaching a class, he didn't think of it. But he put his effort in. We could, as us as students, could see that he cared about us. And then by natural happenstance, it had a very profound impact, but he didn't know it. He was just living his normal day. Like he was just like I think that's the crazier part about this story, is that sometimes to have an impact, it doesn't need to be something like really remarkable on a grand scheme. It could just be those little interactions with a class of kids for one school year. But so that
Potential.
kind of makes it seem like no matter what your day-to-day interactions with people is, you don't know, that could be someone's pivoting to change their life. But to you, it's just a Tuesday. Now it's just a normal day. Well, I loved having you on the show, and I definitely want to keep in touch, and I definitely want the listeners to know all about you. So the stage is yours. Shout out to whoever you want to shout out, and then plugs. anything that you say as a plug, this will be in our show notes so that the listeners can follow up with you and get connected with you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I really, really enjoying our conversation and looking forward to, staying in touch with you. I want to give a shout out to, first of all, my parents. They put in so many hours into me trying different things, and I think that played a huge role in where I am today. Shout out to my wife that balances me out, and every time she helps me to switch to turn that competitive switch off when I need to. I love that. My brother, he's great, helping me everywhere and right by my shoulder. My whole family, and most importantly, to my mentors, whether they know it or not, because sometimes people don't know that I take them as an example. And throughout my career, I had great mentors in business and hockey and music. And I seek out those mentors, and I try to pick and choose. For some reason, I've been blessed to have amazing people around me. I don't really know how that works. I leave it to the higher power. It's just a really specific acts of randomness, probably organized randomness, but still randomness, gave me amazing opportunity to work with people that are very good at what they do, and they share knowledge with me, and I feed off of them. So shout out to all of my mentors, and thanks for supporting me. You can contact me on Instagram, the Alex Iceman on Instagram, and just search Alex Iceman on LinkedIn. I'm very active on both of the platforms, but I'm accessible to people all throughout social media and Twitter, YouTube, anything you want. But I'm very responsive on Instagram and LinkedIn. Those are two main platforms.
Excellent. We'll have that in the show notes so people definitely can follow up with you. And then maybe one more last plug is, and what does your business do, and if people need help with their business, what can you provide?
Absolutely. So Genium is a software engineering consultancy company. We build software for companies that require high quality and cybersecurity for their products or data protection. We have amazing engineers that build mobile apps, websites, backend servers, and we also do outstaffing. If a project needs a long-term support, or you want to grow and scale your team at a little more reasonable cost, we have our offices in Argentina, and we gladly hire amazing talents down in Argentina. And it works perfectly well with the United States because it's similar time zone, just 1 hour difference with New York, and they have very good level of education and very good English level. So our clients are certainly happy to hire through us in Argentina, or build mobile apps or websites and custom software for amazing companies. I'm super blessed in that we're trusted by amazing top companies here in the United States to work with us.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you. Hopefully the listeners will follow up with you. I learned so much, and maybe I'll pick up something random too. Maybe the kazoo or a flute or the recorder. It won't be the piano. That's a little past my grade. But thank you so much for being on the show. Listeners, check out his service. Check out his website. Follow with him. And if you have any questions for the podcast, please call 571-336-6560. That's 571-336-6560. You can leave some questions. One of these episodes, I do a couple Q&A episodes. If you have a question for the listeners, particularly, or for one of my past guests, maybe send them a question. I'll make sure I get their answer before I answer in that Q&A. But thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Phil.